Cool. Chris, thanks for joining me. For guys who don't know, Chris Orr is one of the many success stories of the Badger football players. From being a dominant force on the Badger defense to now being a member of the Carolina Panthers, Chris is the man, and I was lucky enough to be a teammate of his and kind of have him in the same block and locker room my freshman year. And he agreed to do a piece with us, and just thankful to have you here, Chris. What's up?
Oh, man, it's great to be here. I think this is something great that you guys are doing, something that I wish, we had at our disposal when I was in college, but extremely happy for you guys, extremely excited and proud of y'all.
Appreciate that. That actually means a lot coming from an alumni. Real talk. So, all right, I'm just going to dive into the questions, and this is really supposed to be an interview, but let's just turn it into a conversation and see where this goes. So here at UNCUT Madison, we value student athletes for who they are on and off the field. Can you start off by telling us the biggest life lesson you learned during your time in Madison? And you can start with on-field lessons, off-field lessons, or wherever that question kind of takes you.
Oh, wow. Okay. I think the biggest life lessons that I learned at Wisconsin, first off the field, was to have compassion for others at a deeper level. Because when I got injured in 2016, and I was volunteering that entire year, on the Fridays when we go to the Children's Hospital, and you just realize, I could have been having my worst day from rehab or whatever the case might have been, but, I don't have it as bad as these kids in here, plugged up to all these tubes, and, some babies are even in there. So it changed my perspective on a life scale. To that point, I truly have compassion for everybody. I never assume anything about anybody. It's not something that I've always done, but that's just human nature. You start to assume things, but that definitely changed my entire outlook on life. And then I would say the life lessons I learned in football was, I think it kind of just solidified things that I already felt and knew coming into college. So I think my experience at, through the football program, it just solidified that. I definitely still learned to have compassion for others. I learned that, actually, this is probably the best thing I learned from the football program, that leadership comes from love for your teammates, for your coworkers, or whoever it is. And the only way you get to that point is by hanging out with them and truly learning who they are, learning their story, learning what makes them them. You might have a teammate that you think he always lashes out, but then you learn, his true story. You understand why. You know how to communicate with them. So I would say that, coming through the Wisconsin football program, I learned that, love is very vital to leadership.
Yeah, that might be funny to some people hearing, listening in on this, because football is such a violent sport. And to think that, it's violent, as you know, to think that that the best success comes from teams that truly love each other like that, that's might be funny to hear, but I think that speaks volume.
It's crazy that you bring that up, how violent football is, because you have to have enough love for the person next to you to not care about how you might be feeling, to do the job at hand. You might have to be a fullback or O-lineman is who people typically think about. But even on the defensive side, certain blitz pressures don't work if you don't sacrifice by taking two or whatever the case is to open it up for your teammate who's going to get a walk-in sack or whatever the case is. Even the sacks I had my last year, Jack accounted for at least half of those because he was sacrificing himself for me. And that's love, that's compassion for your teammate. There's no selfishness involved there.
Yeah. It's crazy you say that because, not to make this about me at all, but this year, I think the biggest thing I've learned as far as just understanding the defense is you only become a playmaker when you start to understand what everyone else is doing. And sometimes knowing that it's not your play to make, that was the biggest struggle for me. Because I remember coming into high school and I just got to make every play and then I'll play. But it's sometimes it's just you got to just do your job so that the safety's making the play. You're the unsung hero.
Exactly. Yeah, it's like a live. I think of football like a live jigsaw puzzle that you have to try to solve quickly, but you already have at least 70% of the pieces in place. You just have to figure out those last pieces if you know the playbook and you know who you're going against.
Mm-hmm. For sure. So I know you kind of mentioned your journey just a little bit as far as your injuries in 2016. I know you battled through a lot of adversity in your time at Madison. You injured your knee against LSU, which was season ending. I think you injured your knee against Indiana again.
Hamstring.
I remember your hamstring. And I remember you even talked about an infection you had in your leg freshman year. That, I mean, as someone who's gone through a lot of injuries, I can understand what that can do to you mentally and obviously physically putting you to the sideline. Can you talk about that adversity, kind of that journey through all those years and what you learned from that whole experience of getting injured, being on and off the field and all that?
I mean, it definitely sucked. Like,
yeah.
I would definitely say, like, it's not something that you wish on anybody. But it brought me so much closer to my teammates. You know, it helped me see their compassion for me. And I was able to reflect that. I was able to boost my football IQ tremendously by basically becoming a GA, you know, the year that I hurt my knee. You know, I understood all the weak points within each defense that we called and started to understand the thought process of different, you know, schools that we would face on a regular basis, every season. But yeah, I would say it was definitely a roller coaster journey. You learn a lot about yourself. You learn if you really love what you're doing. But football, my love for football honestly drove me through all of that. Like, there was times where, you know, you go down a dark path or whatever the case is, but my love for football, my love for, you know, wanting to constantly get better or just understand more and more about the game is what kept me pushing through. Like, me honestly taking on the thought of being like, I'm going to be another coach out here to these guys, and it's going to help me, but, you know, I can help them as well. Like, I had more experience at the time when I was injured sometimes than people in there, and I'm trying to help them, you know, make the play that I might see or whatever the case is. So I think that's where I started to understand that, you know, compassion for one another helps and goes a long way. You become closer as teammates, you become great friends, and your drive can really shift your focus if you're having a bad day or whatever the case is, whatever it is that you truly love, even if you don't love what you're doing, but, you know, something that you love can definitely drive you through everything. And my love for football drove me through all of that, to be honest. But I had help from great teammates. You know, I didn't always have a shiny, sunny day. Like, sometimes I couldn't even hide it. You know, I try my best to always hide it, but sometimes I couldn't hide it. I had teammates come up to me and, you know, like TJ would always talk to me about the knee, and he knew about the stages of rehab that I was going through. And, you know, you get that same motivation from seeing others overcome what you might be going through, and you see them producing on the field while you're on the sideline. You know, that helps you get going too.
Yeah, that's real.
Crazy.
I'm glad you kind of talked about how you actually got closer to your teammates when you were injured. Because I know a lot of people, when they get injured, it's like they almost drift apart from their teammates because they start to feel like less of the team or less part of the team. So it's cool that you were able to, like, even get closer to the guys even through those stretches of injuries.
Yeah, I would tell those guys, like, just thrust yourself into that role. Like, I think if sometimes you think like, oh, I'm injured, I don't want to be in the way. And that's like the natural thought. Like, granted, you don't have to be in the way, but you can be doing your rehab, you know, out there on the side of practice and still looking and paying attention and taking your notes or whatever the case is, and going up and meeting with your coaches to just grow your football IQ. That way you can help guys out more, which, you know, guys will come to you with questions. They'll come to you and look to you to give them the answer, which inevitably will get you closer because y'all are having more and more conversations.
Yeah, that's facts. That's facts. So aside from injuries, I know at least one other struggle that you might have kind of faced going through college, and even when you were starting to get drafted and looked at by NFL scouts, was the question of size. Can you talk about a little bit about what it means to be kind of an undersized linebacker, undersized for your position, kind of how that gave you a chip on your shoulder and continued to motivate you through, I mean, everything you've done so far?
Oh yeah, that always drove me kind of like my entire life, because I don't take too kindly people like telling me I can't do something, whatever it is, you know, and then I'm just gonna try to do it just to show them. Like, granted, you try not to let others like opinions or whatever the case is phase you, but if you're hearing this from the people that are making the decisions about your dream, like, so I was hearing this from, you know, college coaches. I was hearing this from this is already out, so I'll say their name. Iowa. I can't stand Iowa. Okay. I can't stand Iowa anyway, so you can put it out. I don't care. I don't like Iowa. But yeah, like, people will tell you you're too small. And then, you know, all it really takes, though, to be honest, is one school, one coach, somebody just to give you the opportunity, because, you know, your height, at least I would say at certain positions. Now, I will be honest, like, you can't be a 5'10" tackle. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, to be honest, like, size does matter.
Hey, Notes did it now.
That's true. That's true. I meant like offensive tackle, though.
Oh, shoot.
No, not D tackle. No, you could probably make it work at D tackle. I don't care. I think on defense, at any position, you can be whatever size. And I think that on offense, except for O-line, I think you can make it happen. But like, if you're hearing this, like, I was hearing this from people that were making the decisions on, you know, my dreams at the end of the day. So, you know, I always took it to, like, I'm going to prove to everybody that I can do this, because I have been doing this my entire life. Like, you've been playing football, and if you're still a dynamic player, like, you're going to do that against somebody that might be a couple inches taller than you. Like, that's not going to make a difference.
Yeah.
Like that doesn't make a difference. Like, you're a good player, you know, whatever sport it is. If you're a good player, you're a good player. The size of you does not matter. Like, if you're a good player, you're going to make it happen. Like, even the Devontae Smith out of Bama, like, they're trying to talk about his size, but I'm like, he just won the Heisman. He just proved like he was the best player in the nation.
He
like
was
the same size. Like, he was going against all these people that you're saying like they're the perfect fit or whatever, and he's embarrassing them. So, like, what makes you think it's just going to hold him back now? It didn't hold him back when he made the jump at the last level. So, like, I don't know. That always irritates me, but no, I found my motivation from the guys that opened the door for me to even be in this position, like Mike Singletary, Sam Mills, you know, all those undersized backers, even all the ones even today that might even be a couple years, you know, older than me. I look to those guys as motivation, and my drive is to be that guy for somebody that's 8-year-old right now, and being like, man, look at this guy. He's making these plays, and they're saying he's too small to play this position, but look at him. Like, he's making these plays. Like, you can do this too. Like, you can definitely do this. Like, don't listen to anybody that's telling you can't do this just because of your size or whatever it is. Like, you can definitely make this happen.
It's crazy because it feels like you're speaking to the audience, but bro, that hit me. I remember getting recruited, and I can name all these schools talking about you're too small, you're not the right size. We wish you were, you know, like I'm like 6 foot on a good day. Like, all these coaches telling me I'm too small, to now being in college and like remembering your 2019 year and just watching you ball out and being like, all right, he's like that. Like, I can also be like that. Like, he's was considered too small, considered not the right size, and he's doing it big. Like, why can't that be me? So, I mean, you've already inspired me as far as being an undersized guy. So, and that's dope that you want to inspire other people too with it.
Oh yeah, for sure. You always gotta, you know, pay it back at the end of the day.
Yeah. So, family means a lot to you. I know you talked about football, your love for football. One thing a lot of people might not know is that you come from a tradition of football. Your brother Zachary was on the Ravens. I know your dad played for Texas. Football and family seem to intertwine for you. Can you tell us a little bit more about what family means to you, and how that football tradition kind of drove you to like do what you're doing now, playing for the Panthers, and even coming to get recruited at Madison?
Right. Family means everything to me because my brothers, these were my first best friends.
Yeah.
They were my first best friends. I wanted to do everything that they were doing. Even if it probably didn't even intrigue me, I wanted to do it just because if they were doing it, I wanted to do it. So that handles my brothers. My dad has always been a shoulder for me to lean on, and I've always been a mama's boy. Like, I love my mama to death. From all the little shopping errands, and I don't know if anybody else mom did this. My mom used to trick me and be like, let's come with me to the mall. And I used to not want to be walking around the mall all the time. So we'll go to the mall. We'll go to like 3 stores for her. Then she'll take me to the store for me. Then we'll go to like 2 more stores for her, and she'll take me to go get some food. Then we'll go to like 3 more stores. And before you know it, you done spent the whole day together. So, my mom has always been my homie, but my family means everything to me because that's who's gonna have your back through thick and thin. No matter what the case is, they're definitely gonna have your back. And that's who's my family has been for me. Like even that year when I hurt my knee, I hurt my knee the first defensive snap in the week 1 of the season against LSU and Lambeau. Mm-hmm. But I would have people still text me like good game, like week 6, people were texting me like good game and stuff. And those aren't the people that are really caring about you. Yeah, it's like they're just trying to stay in the loop and stay your friend or whatever it is for whatever reason that might be. But my family were the only people truly checking on my health and my mental health and my emotions, how I actually was. And I was 20 hours away from them. So yeah, I definitely love my family. And the football tradition, man, I don't remember a day of my life without me being involved with football somehow. Like, I truly don't. I've been playing since I was 5. Granted, I didn't get in pads right away at 5.
For sure.
I was flag first. My brothers have been playing my entire life, and they were definitely playing before me. So, and my dad played at the University of Texas. He was #1 running back in Texas when he was coming out of high school, and played 9 years for Washington, won 2 Super Bowls. My oldest brother played all throughout high school, played a little bit in college. And then my second oldest brother, Zach, played in high school, was an all-state backer, went to the University of North Texas, started all 4 years there, was an undrafted guy out of North Texas, went to Baltimore, and then in his last season became a second-team all-pro linebacker. And then, which is like all-American in the NFL for people that don't know. And then now he's coaching, and my other brother was a 4-year start. He was Nicholas freshman, but he was basically a 4-year starter at TCU, and then spent some time in Chicago, and then it was up for me too. Like, I don't remember, like, a lot of my motivation comes from trying to reach all of their achievements. Like, I want to be the best in my family. Like, I want to be talking at Thanksgiving and telling their kids what I was doing or whatever it is.
Yeah.
That's just competition, sibling rivalry, all that. They know. But, my dad played 9 years. I want to play 10. He got 2 Super Bowls. I want 3 at least. My brother was a second-team All-Pro. I want to be first-team All-Pro. Like, I want to set the bar high, and exceed, what they were able to do. They've always driven me in football. And crazy thing is, everybody would hear that and think like my dad like made us train from when we were young and all that. My dad actually like rarely talked about football, especially let alone his career. He never talked about his career. I didn't even know, like, I would see his jerseys and knew he played, but I didn't know exactly to the extent of how good of a player he was or even how his career went. So we found like some VCR tapes one day and saw his game when he was at Texas against TCU, and he done scored like 4 times, had like 200 or 300 yards rushing. Yeah, and I'm like, hey, like, that was cold. Like, he was cold. He was like that for real.
Pops was like that.
Yeah. Then we see him on like America's Game with Washington when they won the Super Bowl, and we see him like catching touchdowns and all that, and I'm like, what? Crazy thing.
Hold on, you didn't tell me.
Yeah, when we was in Little League,
Yeah.
used to tell us like not to wear gloves and like towels and all that. He was like, you don't need that, just play. And then when we caught him on TV wearing a towel, gloves, and wristbands and all that, spiking the ball, yeah, he lost his leverage. Then he couldn't tell us
Yeah,
that.
the '90s swag.
Yeah, he had the '90s swag, but yeah, man, football's been a part of my life. You know, I literally don't remember a single day of my life without football.